Thailand and Cambodia await a phone call with the US president, who believes he can stop the fighting between the clashing neighbours. That fighting spilling into a fourth day, at least 20 people are dead. And more, Nick Harper is just covering the story for CNA from Washington, D.C. The return to fighting on the border, Nick, between Thailand and Cambodia, suggesting a sustained peace deal is likely to go beyond just social media announcements and signed trade deals. Trade deals and deals to end war.
Well, that's right. Well, that's right, Wei. So, I mean, it's a very difficult situation that the US has waded into. Obviously, we saw Donald Trump making those phone calls back in July to both leaders, at which point we saw the fighting stop. And of course, that led to the proper ceasefire and the signing of the peace accord in October. Donald Trump there with the leaders of both countries and Malaysia as well, that had helped to broker the deal. But we've obviously seen this resumption of fighting, this flare-up along the border, with both sides again blaming one another. But Donald Trump is suggesting that he will be able to do what he did back in July once again, which is get on the phone and persuade both leaders to stand down. He was asked about this by reporters on Wednesday. He said, "I think I can get them to stop fighting." But we've already seen pushback from Thailand's Prime Minister suggesting that he wants to explain and clarify the situation to Donald Trump, suggesting that there will not be an easy fix here in the form of a phone call. And part of this really is whether or not a phone call, leader to leader, actually works. Donald Trump, of course, prides himself in that personal relationship. He likes to get in the room with world leaders. He likes to press the flesh, shake hands, try and do deals there on the spot. So there is a question about whether or not he might need to fly to the region to be able to force all of this through. But there is also that underlying concern about whether or not the US really understands the situation. This is a dispute that dates back more than 100 years. And there was always a question about whether the US weighing in was going to be enough to solve this very, very long-running and complicated situation. I mean, certainly it shows that the US is engaged, that the Trump administration is looking to the region and wants to try and sort out these regional conflicts. But perhaps there just needs to be more buy-in from other regional partners. And that's something that we've seen the US try to push to do. The inclusion of other ASEAN countries certainly helping to try and get that October resolution organised. But whether or not Donald Trump can make any changes this time around, when there is those bad feelings on both sides of the border, I think it's going to be very difficult for the president to be able to affect changes.
Well, Nick, not helped in fact that Thailand, for example, has been quite keen to keep any disagreement entirely bilateral. Cambodia might be more prepared to look to regional pressure and international pressure as well. It's reached out to the UN Security Council to try to get Thailand to cease hostilities. In this context, with neither Thailand nor Cambodia agreeing on the channel for peace, what sort of role can the US play?
Yeah, interesting. And from the UN's perspective, I mean, certainly this would help to elevate things to an even higher level. We have the US engagement, but by getting the UN Security Council involved, there is really that international pressure. If they were to have a briefing, which of course is public, we would have the opportunity to see all countries, in theory, denounce the violence and try and push for peace. We could even see a resolution perhaps put on the table, which would give all of the 15 members of the Security Council a chance to vote on it. The US undoubtedly will want to try and push for peace. We're likely to see China doing the same as well. But I think it's worth noting that if we got to that stage, it exerts international pressure. But any UN Security Council resolution is non-binding. It essentially is an opportunity to show that pressure, to show that members want peace, but there is no way to enforce that. So there is that opportunity to discuss it in New York at the UN Security Council level. That might help. But really, I think there needs to be much more engagement on the ground. And as you mentioned, that bilateral relationship that Thailand has been pushing for to try and resolve the issue.
Oh, thanks. Nick Harper, they're reporting live from Washington, D.C.